Hello everyone, GalacticStorm here, and today we are going to be doing our first episode of our R-Type Final 2 stage guide. And, well, I thought I wanted to try something out different. If you're stuck on a certain enemy and you don't know how to deal with them, or you just don't know how to kill a boss, no problem, I will help you with that. So this game is branched out into 7 stages. And after stage 5, you'll have 3 stages to choose from stage 6 and stage 7, each of them having their own different ends in that. So, there is going to be, or possibly going to be, an additional few stages within the game, but there is also going to be DLC when it comes to past R-Type games, when it comes to stages and all. So, we will get into those eventually. But first, let's get into the very first stage of R-Type Final 2. So to point out a few things, most of your enemies are going to be coming from the right, but you're going to have enemies that are going to come from all directions within later stages. But most importantly, they're going to be coming from your right in this stage. So for the first sequence, you're going to be introduced to Revos, which are basically one-hit enemies that will fire projectiles and move up and down. They'll be coming from the top right of your screen. They'll come in a small formation, and then afterwards you're going to be introduced by a POW armor. These things will give you supplies such as force crystals, missiles, and bits. The first one that you're going to be getting from this stage is a blue crystal, and then you're going to be introduced by some Revos that are going to be coming from the bottom right. Now, the other enemies that you're going to be introduced to right after you deal with a few more Revos is going to be pulses. These guys, they usually fly in a single formation, and they would fire a whole bunch of projectiles depending on the difficulty, just like the Revos. They do come up at first, like on the very top right, and then eventually they'll come from the bottom right as well. So do be aware that you could just throw your force at them and you'll get points and increase your dosage. And then you'll also be introduced to a walking turret that's going to be walking around and just try to fire a few rounds at you. One of them is not bad, but if you're with multiple of them, they will be lethal. You'll be introduced to many pulses that are going to be coming from the top and the bottom of the screen. There will be some that will be coming from entrance points that are going to be coming out from the top. As pulses come up from an upward entrance, a POW armor will also introduce itself to giving you some missiles. Afterwards, you'll be seeing this large robot that will be firing missiles at you. This robot, while it may look imposing, it's not much of a threat. Basically, lunge your force at it or just fire your wave cannon at it, and it has low health, so you can easily take it down with little to no problem. Afterwards, you're going to be introduced to a tight space, and you'll be introduced with some more pulses as well. Just like the same, just fire your force at it or just fire a gun at them. More pulses will be coming upwards within an entrance above, but you will have some breakable ice that you can use with your force, or you can just shoot them with your lasers. But do be warned, if you make contact with them, you will die. Other small walking turrets will come from the bottom right, but you can easily dispatch them with your missiles. But then afterwards, you're going to be introduced by two things. These floating containers, but they will move on their own accord when you fire at them. And Gains, a giant robot that's red and fires a big ass cannon. You can't block it and you'll die from it. But depending on the difficulty, they'll fire it a lot or just not as much. But my advice, lunge your force at them and then just start firing away. It doesn't have as much health compared to the other robot, but it is a little bit more compared to them. Afterwards, you're going to be introduced by some more Revos, and then another enemy that is pretty big, and I'll explain. So you will have a whole bunch of Revos that are going to be coming from the middle and from the bottom, depending on the difficulty. You'll also get another power armor, and it'll give you another crystal, a blue crystal, and that will charge up your force basically to the highest level. Afterwards, you are going to be going after this container of sorts, which will be pulling out Bido. For this, it has a lot more health than the other robots. So, in my advice, again, is to lunge your force onto the container itself, which will give you a whole bunch of more points and to increase your dosage. Do be warned that these Bido are slow moving and are going to be coming from the top and bottom of the container. My advice, since they are one shot, try to fire at them as much as possible, and then just keep on firing at the container until it's destroyed. Afterwards, you are going to be introduced to a whole other creature that's going to be coming from the bottom of the screen on your left. That is a Biosystem Alpha, and they will only appear within Bido or higher. But they are easily dispatched, just easily get behind it and just take it out from there. And then you're going to be introduced for some more Revo, and you're going to be introduced to another power armor in another tight crevice. While that item looks kind of strange compared to the other crystals that you're getting, that is a bit. The bit will basically go from the top and bottom of your ship and will protect you from one-hit enemies in that. And it will also fire with the red crystal some projectiles at it, depending on what force or whatever kind of craft that you're wielding. But afterwards, you're going to be introduced by some more containers. So my advice is to start pushing them back. You'll also have another power armor that's going to introduce you to a red crystal and more breakable ice. And then within that ice, another power armor with a blue crystal. This will introduce us to our very first boss, and it's been a main staple within the series. While I cannot translate the name of this boss, I apologize, but it comes in two forms. The first form you're going to be seeing from practice all the way up to Bido. The rest are going to be coming from R-Typer to R-Typer 3. So the first one, we are going to be focusing on practice to basically Bido. So the first form of the attack is that it's going to start shooting out this purple gunk that's going to be coming from the top and the bottom floors. Do not touch that. And then you're going to also have these orange projectiles coming from the top and bottom of that gunk. Again, don't touch them and don't try to block them. If you see them, evade them as much as you can. For your first attack, I suggest charging your wave cannon while you're approaching the boss. And then, depending on the force, lunge your force onto the stomach area. And from there, it will fire another attack when the boss is low. And when you know when the boss has low health, is when it starts spewing out this purple blood. Its second attack is when the stomach area then fires this, or charges up this laser at first and then fires. It's not going to cover the screen or anything, but it will be, you know, a little bit imposing. But you still will have the orbs in that to deal with depending on what's going on in that. But after the laser is gone, just charge up your wave cannon again and just fire more lasers at it, and this boss will be pretty easy and will be killed shortly after. Now the second form is even harder. It's not going to be doing the same attacks as it did earlier. It's going to be doing something different, I would say. The mouth parts of the creature will be firing out this wave that's going to be, well, you're not going to be expecting where it's going to be going. It's going to be going all over the place. And just like the other projectiles, you'll die by contact, or you can't even block the thing. So my advice is to go to speed 4 and just try to move around as much as possible and fire your wave cannon at first, and then just try to unleash your force onto the stomach area. It's the same weak point as it was on the earlier form. And it'll also fire that laser again once it's at low health. But again, this one doesn't have as much health and will be taken out as quick as you can. But then when the creature dies, you're gonna be going to stage 2. That concludes this episode. The next one we are going to head towards stage 2. Until then, GalacticStorm saying, keep charging, bitches.